What's up, everybody? Flan Speaks back for another video, and I just had to comment on this here conversation between Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman on the upcoming game tonight between the Atlanta Hawks and the Philadelphia 76ers, and let's just get straight to it.
For Philly, ahead of their Game 2 and their semifinals matchup, the 76ers turned the ball over 19 times in Game 1, leading to 28 points for the Hawks. Philly averaged under 9 turnovers in Game 2, taking 2 of the 3 regular season meetings against Atlanta. Joel Embiid scored 39 points despite his knee issues, but the MVP finalist shot just 5 for 12 outside the paint in Game 1 per Spectrum. He was 7 for 9 when shooting from inside. And speaking of shooting, Ben Simmons just 3 for 10 on free throws in Game 1 among qualified shooters. His 34% rate at the line this postseason is the worst mark through 6 games since Shaq in 2004. The offense may have been an issue, but 76ers need to find a way to stop Trey.
This wasn't on him a lot, Lauren.
First of all, the reason the Sixers lost the game, Molly just read it right there and gave you the reasons. Number one, there was 19 turnovers in the game, which is really uncharacteristic of this particular team. There was 19 turnovers. Actually, in the first quarter, I believe there were 9 turnovers. All right, that led to the Sixers being put into a hole, and that really is it in a nutshell. It's coming out flat, turning the ball over. Now they want to make it about some old other stuff about Atlanta having shooters and Trey Young and all of that, which is fine. But let's be real about this. The best player in this series is Joel Embiid. And let me say that again. The best player in this series is Joel Embiid. It's not really about Trey Young. But we'll continue. Let's see.
White men on Trey. We don't like him on them all game. Trey does a great job of drawing fouls.
All right, Stephen A., who needs to step up for the Sixers to even the series?
I'm going to say Tobias Harris. Here's the reason why. Because he had 20 points. I believe it was like 10 rebounds. I'm just looking at his numbers here. 20 points, 10 rebounds. Hit 8 of 13 shots. He's got to be more aggressive. Here's the reason why. You're not stopping Atlanta from scoring. They have too many shooters. I had Quavo on my show, Stephen A's World, on ESPN Plus yesterday. He was at the game Sunday, chilling with Ruben, the part owner of the 76ers, before showing up to the Mayweather-Logan exhibition match in Miami that day. And you know, Quavo was talking about this as well, because it was like this. Look, you got Trey. You got Collins. You got Lou Williams. You got Herter. These brothers can shoot.
Oh, my God. Woo! Trey Young. Okay, all right. Collins. Oh, my God. I'm so scared. Herter. Ooh, so scared. Gallinari. Ooh. See, this is what's happening right here. And this is, I'm not even worried about, Atlanta Hawks fans who are going to watch this. Y'all living in La La Land. Don't even worry about it. Listen. Stephen A. Smith has this narrative about shooting the basketball being such a reason why teams win titles that is a nonsense narrative and displaying defense and disrespecting the effective defense. Let me tell you something about Stephen A. Smith here. Stephen A. Smith in the 2018 season had picked the Philadelphia 76ers to win the whole title. And this was done after a game between the Philadelphia 76ers where Joel Embiid was hurt and Ben Simmons had a team that boasted Dario Saric, Marco Bellinelli, JJ Redick, who else? The other guy, the big tall guy, forget his name. The other guy from Eastern Europe, who used to always take the charges. If it comes back to me, one of you brothers can help me remember who was on that team. But basically, he said the reason the Sixers will win is because of the plethora of shooting. This was his argument. This is what he said, because of shooting. He picked us to come out of the East. And he believed that we would be the one team that could probably beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. Lo and behold, when the Sixers with that particular team got to the playoffs, which was Ben Simmons and a bunch of shooters, after getting past the Miami Heat, they went up against a Boston Celtics team that was without Kyrie Irving, and did not have a bunch of jump shooting players, but instead had a type of team with a number of playmakers who could defend and also score. Let me put this again. Defend and also score. Now, I'm not talking about three-point shooting. They were fine at three-point shooting. But what they were able to do was actually smother those players like Marco Bellinelli, smother those players like J.J. Redick, smother those players like Dario Saric, smother Robert Covington, who was actually a decent three-point shooter at the time. And this led to the Philadelphia 76ers in the end having nothing but Joel Embiid getting his points. And he actually struggled there because they were able to double him because of the other players who were not playmakers could not help them to get past them. This is the blind spot in Stephen A's argument that I try to explain here on this channel. And it is the reason why I don't really respect his basketball knowledge as much as people think his basketball knowledge should be respected. Number two. Let's look at the last two teams that won a championship. I don't care about these teams that are going out there and scoring all these points and all of that. I'm talking about these teams that are winning championships. Last year's championship was the Los Angeles Lakers. What was the thing that stood out about those Lakers? Was it LeBron James and Anthony Davis? Yes, of course. But what else? Number one, that team was the number one defensive team in the league. And let's look at the players on that team. You had LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. What is that? These were big men in the paint who did what? They controlled the paint. Why were they a defensive team? Why were they number one rated defensive teams? They weren't allowing those points in the paint. They were controlling the rebounds. All right. And they had a maestro like LeBron James who controls the tempo of the game. When it needs to speed up, he can speed it up. When it needs to slow down, he slows it down. That's what they had. But along with LeBron James is another guy, Anthony Davis, who can get his own shot. Get it? Okay. Prior to that, who won the title? The title was won by the Toronto Raptors. What was it that was special about the Toronto Raptors? Was it the fact they just had Kawhi Leonard? The fact they had Pascal Siakam? Sure, that's fine. But what was special about the Toronto Raptors, they were the number one rated defensive team in the league. They were the number one rated defensive team. And they boasted Kawhi Leonard, of course. And they boasted Kyle Lowry and a number of other guys who can ball, who can play. All right? But the defense was the common thread there. And if people want to bring up the Golden State Warriors, which is the only team that you can actually make this argument for, the only team, I will say it again, they are the only team that you can make this argument for, that is a team of shooters, but I'll even still pick that apart. Why? Because not only was the Golden State Warriors a team that has Steph Curry, who's the greatest shooter of all time, the first thing you need to recognize about Steph Curry is not just a three-point shooter. Steph Curry is a scorer. Like, a lot of you guys don't understand the difference. What's the difference between a three-point shooter and a scorer? Like, for example, on the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young is a scorer, all right? Gallinari is a three-point shooter. Bogdanovich, he's somewhat of a scorer, but not a great scorer. He's a three-point shooter. All right, Lou Williams is a scorer. Okay, so Lou Williams and Trae Young are the only true scorers on the team. Me, I value scorers over three-point shooters. Like a guy like a simple player like a Tobias Harris to me will be more valuable than a Kyle Korver. I don't care if Kyle Korver will beat him in a three-point contest. It doesn't matter. When it comes to a game and you need a bucket, I value the scorers more. All right, when I look at the Atlanta Hawks and I look at the people that Stephen A. just mentioned, he mentioned a bunch of damn shooters, except for Lou Williams and Trae Young. That's why it doesn't mean anything. You could talk about shooters. I'm telling you, when a game gets tight and teams start to not leave those guys open, you will see that they are not as valuable as you might think. Let me just move on. Let them continue his argument so I can break this down.
And oh, by the way, they also make free throws. The Atlanta Hawks got to the free throw line
So yeah, he said, but you can't stop Atlanta from scoring. So Tobias Harris has to score more. This is his genius answer based off of one freaking game. These guys are ridiculous.
14 times less than the Philadelphia 76ers. But the Philadelphia 76ers missed 11 free throws. You're not beating the Atlanta Hawks if you can't score. Now Doc Rivers is absolutely right. Trey.
I don't agree with that. They're not. I mean, let me tell you something. A great scoring team, for example, is the Brooklyn Nets. A great scoring team is the old Golden State Warriors. Those were great scoring teams. What do those teams have in common? Those teams have in common the fact that they can score the basketball from in five different ways. Let me break this down to you. Some of y'all don't understand this, all right? In basketball, there's 5 ways to score, okay? Number 1 and the most efficient is at the rim. That's dunking the ball or laying it up. That is number 1. And by the way, those Golden State Warriors that we talked about from 2017, 2018, those Warriors led the league in layups. They led the league in layups. Let me just let you know that. Okay. So you score that way. The other way you score is at the free throw line. Sixers are a good free throw shooting team with the exception of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons and Dwight Howard, they suck. And I don't want them at that, and that could be a blind spot. All right? So at the rim, at the free throw line. From the mid-range, you can also score. Okay? And from post up and from the three-point line. Okay? The three-point line is the most inefficient shot there is. Anybody that leads the league in three-pointers, the guy who leads the league in three-pointers is going to shoot 45%. If he's 45%, he has a good chance of leading the league in three-point percentage. That makes it the most inefficient way of scoring. That's why I don't value it like other things. The most efficient way of scoring are what? The layups, of course, and then the free throws because there's no defense on you. Okay? But mid-range, and mid-range out to the three-point is the most inefficient way of scoring. All right. The Brooklyn Nets can score, they can beat you in all those ways. That's why that's a great scoring team. The Atlanta Hawks, they have a few players that can score those different levels. Trey Young, he can get into the paint, do his little floaters. I wouldn't say he's dominant at that, but he can do it. Clint Capella, maybe, but he can't really score. You can't give him the ball and have him ISO on Embiid. It's not going to work. They won't even try that. Collins, I mean, he's mediocre at best, right? Really, when it comes to scoring the ball. I don't even know why Stephen A. mentioned that guy. And then, Gallinari, those guys, they're okay. They don't scare you. All right. I know everybody's hype about that first game, but that's about to change tonight. It's about to change tonight. The Sixers will win by at least 15 points. I've watched this team. I just know what they're going to do to them. Like, I literally know what they're going to do. All right? Atlanta's not a team. Oh, my God, you can't stop their offense because those good boys can score. No, if those boys were 3-level scorers all over the place, if they had, guys like Golden State where I got to deal with Steph Curry, I got to deal with Klay Thompson, I got to deal with Kevin Durant, I got to deal with some guy they're going to bring off the bench, like an Iguodala, then that'd be a concern. Like with Brooklyn, you got to worry about Kevin Durant. You got to worry about Kyrie Irving. Then they can bring in Landry Shamet off the bench. They can bring in a number of guys that can beat you off the dribble. This is not the case with the Atlanta Hawks. You have to worry about Trey, and you have to worry about Lou Williams. Now Herter tries, depending on the matchup that's on him. If you put a good defender on Herter, he's not going to do anything. If you put Steph Curry on him, then he can do something. So Doc has to make sure that doesn't happen.
Young is a master at drawing fouls. He's cat quick. He stops in the lane.
Yes, he is. But in the playoffs, we know that stuff ain't gonna always be called as the game gets tighter. You know that.
He's like a quarterback with pocket presence. He knows where his defender is at all times.
Go flying by, yeah.
And he'll stop in front of them, knowing
another person that's excellent drawing fouls, Joel Embiid.
that they coming up behind him at a particular speed or whatever. Listen, this is what he does. He not only can shoot, he can handle, he can pass, but he's exceptional at drawing fouls. And so as a result, He's going to hit his free throws. They're going to hit their free throws. You can't get Ben Simmons in foul trouble, but you also can't send Ben Simmons to the free throw line. He's not reliable. So Seth Curry has to make shots. Danny Green has to make shots. But Tobias Harris, whose two best seasons in the NBA have both been with Doc Rivers as his coach, first with the Clippers years ago and now with the Philadelphia 76ers, this brother can play. He's making $180 million for a reason. Tobias Harris has to be that dude. It's not enough to average 20. Tobias Harris is going to need to.
I agree, you do need to use Tobias Harris, but that's not a Tobias problem. Tobias, there's nobody on the Hawks that can stick him, so they should be using him more. I do agree with that, but I expect that to happen.
Average close to 30 in this series, and he's going to need to shoot more than
I don't agree they'll need to average 30 to beat the Hawks. The Hawks are not what he's trying to make them.
shots. 13 shots, unacceptable. Tobias Harris needs to be shooting 23 to 25 shots a game. That's how you're going to offset what Atlanta throws at you, because they're going to score.
Yeah, I'm more.
They did score something, not like you talking. They're not the freaking Golden State Warriors or the Brooklyn Nets.
Worried about what the Sixers can do to try to slow up Atlanta. You're right, they're going to score, but you got to try and slow them up. And I understand Doc's point. You don't want to get Simmons in foul trouble early.
Don't turn the ball
As you
over.
mentioned, Trae Young is very good at drawing fouls if you put some, but you're going to have to figure out how to guard Trae Young. And I think in crunch time, when it matters most, Stephen A., even though he can't hit his free throws, it's going to have to be Ben Simmons. It's not like with the game online. It's going to be Thibault or Simmons, right? And can you play them both because of the shooting problems? The real answer to this, and I brought this up yesterday, is actually Doc Rivers. Doc is the guy who's going to have to step up. Throughout the year, Stephen A., he's played this all-bench unit, right? End of the first, beginning of the second quarters. When you play that, now, in the regular season, you can go 11 deep. In the playoffs, you tighten the rotation. You play your best 8 guys, 9 guys. Doc is sticking to his guns. He did it in game 1. First, Danny Green's on Trae Young. No good. You get down early. And then you get buried with your all-bench unit. You can't do that again. And Doc...
You worrying about the damn bench. This guy. I mean, the bench didn't play well in the game, but we had the Sixers had one of the better benches in the league. And I don't even worry about that. In the second half, Doc didn't go with all the guys. He didn't empty the bench. It only happened in the first half. Come on, Max.
Sometimes the
Wasting my time with that. You didn't even study the second half of the game. This is a bad take.
same thing that makes someone great, and Doc is a great coach. He's going to the Hall of Fame as a coach. But sometimes that same thing can be their weakness. Doc believes in what he's doing. But if he's going
He
to
believes in it so much he didn't do it in the second half. Come on, Max. You're wasting my time.
be intractable, and he's not going to reconsider this 11 deep unit in the playoffs, this exclusively bench unit to close out and begin quarters in the playoffs, they're going to wind up losing this series. I think the answer is Doc.
You couldn't be more wrong. And here's why you couldn't be more wrong.
Even they cracks me up. He acts like he knows basketball like Max knows boxing, right? So he just talks real crazy to him. You know, and I get he has to seem like he's the expert there because other than that, he and Max will be on even footing when it comes to pretty much every sport. So I'll say Stephen A. might know a little bit more than him. He really knows more players than him. He don't really know more of the game necessarily, you know, but it's hilarious. They're a little back and forth.
Doc Rivers, you're asking Doc Rivers basically to do what typical coaches do. You got to go with a strong 7. Okay? Bring 2 dudes off the bench, have your starting 5, and go with that. Max, ever since, you would be right if Lloyd Pierce was there. But ever since he was relieved of his duties and Nate McMillan has taken over, they've elevated their pace of play. They've pushed the ball up the floor more, which is why you see these guys for Atlanta getting open shots, and they're more than capable of burying them. So from a philosophical perspective, there is no question that the Atlanta Hawks...
You don't have to, just because the Hawks are speeding the game up, play fast. The Sixers can slow the ball down when they have it if they want. Like that's nonsense. You have to go 10 deep because the Hawks are playing fast. That's what are you talking about?
are a team to be reckoned with
He just
because...
acts like this team is the damn Brooklyn Nets when it comes to scoring the ball. I can't wait till we kick their ass tonight. This is like really annoying.
of pace of play, and they speed it up. Well, if they speed it up, you're talking about slowing them down. Well, let me throw this at you, Max Kellerman. Joel Embiid, although he's 26, we all know he's got knee issues, and now he's got a slight meniscus tear in his knee. That's problematic. Tobias Harris is 20.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to be running too much.
28. You've got Seth Curry, he's 30. You got Danny Green, he's 33. Excuse me, what are you supposed to do? You can't sit up there and press these dudes, okay, and make sure that you do everything you can to take them out of their style of play by just playing your 5 guys or 2 guys off the bench. You've got to go deep in order to press them, to pressure
but you don't have to go
them
11 deep.
Well, I'm not
I don't agree with that either, Stephen A. But whatever.
saying 11 deep, but you might have to go 9,
Well, look,
possibly 10.
Let me give you another. I hear what you're saying.
You got to do it, man.
I hear what you're saying.
You got to do it.
They just wasted on a torn meniscus. Embiid almost went for 40, went for 39 points. That's efforts.
Well, they turned over the ball 9 times in the first quarter.
You know what?
Exactly, the turnovers what did that.
So we're talking numbers. I just looked it up. The Sixers bench, because remember he goes with a full bench lineup. In the first half they were outscored 10-0. Every other throughout the game, Sixers lineup was +6 in the game. So I hear what you're saying. You
What happened in that game? That's what happened in that game. That's not going to happen every game.
may have some fatigued dudes, but if you continue to do this with the all-bench lineup, you're going to get buried against this Hawks team that scores very well and efficiently. You're just not going to do it.
Yeah, but what
you're
I'm
not
saying
going to win.
is you have to pick your spots where you're willing to amp up that kind of pressure. Because the fact of the matter is, if you don't utilize your depth early, you're going to have to use it late because your dudes are going to
Not
be
all at
exhausted.
They're just talking crazy, right? They're not going to talk much longer, and they're not really making any more prudent points. Anyway, we got the game coming on tonight. Sixers Hawks. See y'all when we get there, so I can tell y'all, yeah, I was right.